social media makes this tough, but because so many people just haunt the news feed and they haunt the social feed to see what they're uncertain about, which will have you destroying your entire life because you'll be operating from doubt all the time. And let's be honest, it's so hard to know what's real anymore.
This is Jim Bratton Podcast. You may enjoy some, or all, or none. Now, here's Jim.
All right, this is the Jim Bratton Podcast coming to you from Marmo Studio 206, well, sort of Studio 206, and we're talking to Coach Kevin Voisin. Kevin is another member here at Marmo, and I know you do a lot of podcasts on your own,
Sure.
So you've got a great podcast studio over on the other end of the building. Let's talk a little bit about you, what your background is. Then I would like to spend a few minutes just going into exactly what Coach Kevin does. All right? So tell me about your beginnings and how you drifted into this business.
Yeah, I was born a poor Cajun boy. How about that? I was born in South Louisiana, 8th generation oyster fisherman. And my family got into the processing business, which brought us into marketing, and we sold oysters all over the world.
Wow.
And we grew a huge brand in oysters, and then eventually I realized oysters was fun, but I want to do more. I started a marketing firm, ended up being the youngest elected official locally in that area.
Really?
Yeah, I did a lot. As an elected official, I realized that having a young family and being an elected official don't go together, so I never really ran.
Boy, and as a marketing person, that can get a little dangerous too. There's a lot of fences to straddle, I'm guessing.
No. Yeah, well, definitely, and some that I just fell over the wrong way and learned some life lessons, right? But yeah, and from the marketing firm, I ended up going to a coaching program, really loving it, really understanding kind of who I am, activating in some new way, and realizing that I'd been a coach kind of the whole time. By the end of my marketing firm, most of my clients just wanted me to coach them, and I did the marketing to pay for the coaching. And I just kind of embraced it, hey, what my role here on earth is to wake the sleeping giants, help people see what they're really capable of, set them on that path, and then check with them along the way.
Interesting that you did that with your existing customer base inadvertently.
I didn't even know it. Really, this is a true story. The last client that I had in the marketing company, I was super excited about this ad campaign that we had put together for them.
Right.
Sat down in her office. I gave her the invoice. She gave me the check. And usually that's when you go over, hey, here's what we're going to do. And I started to kind of give the pitch for what we're going to do. And she said, well, do you really believe in it? Is it good for you? I was like, yeah. She says, look, I get so much out of talking to you about my marriage and where I'm going in my life. I trust you. If you think it's awesome, I think it's awesome. Could we just talk about that? And I was like, oh, okay. I'm a professional coach. I'm not actually getting paid for marketing.
It was a light bulb moment.
Yeah, and then I just embraced it and realized that this is what you can, when you really are doing what you were born to do.
Yeah.
You can see it front and back in time, right? You just see, oh wow, I was always playing this game, maybe with a different, front, maybe with a different context, but it's just who I am, and I love it.
How old were you when you made that discovery?
I was 40-ish, 41, 42,
that
somewhere
makes
in there.
sense.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm going to ask a few really personal questions.
Sure.
Do you think that you had to enjoy some personal success in the marketing side before you jumped off into this to gain the confidence to recognize who you were?
Well, I wish that the answer to that was yes. The truth is I had to enjoy some devastating losses. I had to cheat on my first wife, lose that marriage, have my kids move 9 hours away, drive 18 hours every other weekend to see them. I had to go through some bad stuff to realize, wow, who I was, my ego, and the way that I thought about the world really set me up to fail. And I think that's what makes me such a good coach is I've just made not all the mistakes, thank God, but really close. I just made a lot of mistakes.
Trust me, as somebody who has a number of years on you, there are more to make. I can assure you. And I will tell you one more thing from my perspective, that wisdom is a hoax that's perpetrated by old people because we don't get that much smarter as we get older. But we do have fresh mistakes to make, and we try to learn from those. That is wow.
Well, my grandfather once, when I was really young, my grandmother died, and Grandpa was pretty depressed. So I moved in with him, which was I'm one of the very few people on the earth who's been on a legitimate double date where we were both on our first date with someone with his grandpa. So he was on a first date with someone. I was on a first date with someone. I had talked him into this. I'm like, hey, let's do a double date. How cool is that? Like, I'm 19, you're in your 80s.
103.
This is going to be great. And I remember planning the whole date, and it was the day before, and telling him, hey, here's what we're going to do. And he said, I am not taking a woman to that restaurant. He said, no, he revised the whole thing. So my date severely upgraded to his budget.
Oh, wow. That was not a bad deal. Yeah. So it went from burgers to whatever he was going to do.
It was burgers to Flanagan's, and it was all champagne and bubbles after that.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. Whoa. But I remember getting ready for the date. He had the big double mirror in his room, and Grandma had died, and so I came into there. So there was like 2 separate showers, and we're getting ready for this date, talking. It was just kind of a fun moment in my life. And as we're getting our shirts buttoned up in the mirror, he said, "Listen, Kevin, you're 19, and I'm whatever he was, 70 something." He said, "But I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for this mirror, I'd have no idea." He said, man, in my head, I'm still your age. I'm still the same. So the mirror and my body remind me all the time, but if it wasn't for this, I would have no idea.
Well, I understand that. Never try to jump over the barbed wire fence that you think you can. That's in my mind. I can see that fence across the yard, and I could probably get a good run and go right over it. Nice scissor kick and all that, but it's never going to happen. So, yeah, I got that. So you got into the coaching business inadvertently.
Yeah, I went to a program, and it lit me up. I mean, I remember coming home and my wife saying, I think her thing was like, well, this is cool. This might last a couple of weeks. Because usually I would get really into something and then 2 weeks later kind of move on. And really into something. I got really into this. But this wasn't something. It was me. I was really into me. And I really saw myself in a different way. And I really saw that, I'm not just somebody floating along, that I'm a force of nature. Like I'm not the only force, I'm not the strongest force, but I am a force of nature, and I'm not acting like it. I'm acting as if all these forces act on me, and I hope that maybe I float somewhere. No, I can exert myself. Again, yes, there are lots of forces of nature, and many of them are way bigger than me, but that doesn't mean anything. I can navigate, and I can create my life. And that was really, intoxicating almost to realize that for the first time, that I didn't have to check someone else's list of boxes of the right things to do. And I didn't have, I had done all of the right things, and it made me miserable, right?
I understand. You're talking to somebody who understands exactly what you're talking about, what you're speaking of. And now, on this whole external, internal thing, so you went through this strong internalization and really recognizing who you were and what strengths you had and all that. Did you have to get past the point that maybe the world is not yours to change, but to rather input into individual behaviors on other people?
So I think for me, a lot of people talk about self, and I've even said it, I think, on this podcast already, but self-actualization or self-realization or self-awareness, right? What I've actually come to realize is it's not that. It's self-acceptance.
Yeah.
It's actually, can you just accept what's already there? And once you can accept who you really are, really, not the thing you say, not the thing you're supposed to say, and then you accept who you really want to be, then there's a real gap that opens up that you can actually close and you can actually make a difference, right? Like Frederick Douglass was born a slave,
right?
But he saw that who he really was an intellectual who lived free,
right?
And he accepted that's who he really was. And once he accepted that, the rest of his life was just a process of living as that. And what's interesting is no matter how the world tried to crush him back into that original form, he wouldn't. Why? Because he had changed. And so when the world tried to crush him, it left the impression of his face on the world instead of the world making him flat. Here's a guy who freed himself from slavery, he gets all the way to Ireland where he's safe.
Yeah.
And his friends say, hey, you're one of the greatest orators in the world. You're one of the greatest writers in the world, right? In a time when we thought African Americans couldn't even that isn't possible,
anyway,
right? So every article he writes is kind of a statement of, we have the wrong ideas. Stay here, be safe, and make your impact. And and he says, he's been my hero since I was very young. When I read this, he says, no, I want to live at home. I'm going to move home to my hometown. And for me, I was, my dad and my family took really good care of me. Like I was born pretty privileged. That's an amazing, I was born a slave. Like his home is where he was a slave. And he said, no, I want to go live there. And he did. And for the rest of his life, Frederick Douglass is the most photographed man of the 19th century, more than Abraham Lincoln. He was invited to the White House twice for lunch, turned it down the second time because he had a prior engagement. Like
who does that?
You're born a slave, and that is amazing, right? But it's because he was not aware, not actualized. He just accepted who he was.
Yeah.
He was an intellectual powerhouse. He was a force of nature who wanted to exert. Again, did he change the whole world? In a way, but no, not everything. Like not everything got better. The last words of his life were agitate, 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 meaning there's a lot of work left to do.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel, is like there is legend in every life. Like you can't see it on the podcast, but I'm wearing a shirt that says I am legend, right?
That's right. And
so are you, and so is whoever's listening. Like there is legend in every life. But so few of us live it. So death is required. It's 100%. You're going to die. I'm going to die. Right. It's a question of who dies first, not if we die.
That's right.
Living, completely optional. Like living life, who you really are, is completely optional. And it's sad to me when I walk around a cemetery. What I think is sad to me is how many of those songs were never really sung. Right? Everybody says good stuff about your funeral, right? I've been to so many funerals. No one says bad things about you at your funeral, right? And so your headstone's always awesome, right? But with really those lives, when you look around, are people really living? And if they are living, are they living for themselves? Are they living for the person they know themselves to be? Or are they living up to some list that someone else made? And hey, if someone else made a list and you're like, that's me, I love it, and that's who you want to be, awesome. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, that's right.
But so few of us do that, and so few of us do it on purpose.
Right. I'm enjoying this conversation. I'm drifting way off topic, if that's all right. We're going to keep going. All right.
That's kind of my specialty.
I sort of gathered that. So, in a coaching scenario, when you're trying to help someone find that, what do you do when their whole self-perception is way away from that? How do you guide them into what they really are? And how do you keep from crossing the line from coach to psychologist in that viewpoint? And
that's easy because I'm not smart enough to be a psychologist. So that
don't go there.
No, but so here's the thing. It starts with the truth.
Yeah.
Can you tell the truth? Like,
so
can you tell the truth?
That's a big deal.
That's hard. It's hard.
Very, very difficult.
It's hard for someone to say, I want to make $1 million. I can have a really fancy car, so I'll be attractive. Which is so often that everyone else around sees like, oh, wow, that's okay. But it's so hard to just admit who we really are, right? And for me as a coach, that's it. It's all about the truth. I've coached over 40,000 people, like really intimately too, in groups of like 10, 20.
Right.
Which is crazy. It's actually the number I keep double checking. It's
it?
Probably more like 50,000 now because this is a very old number. But I don't want to. I don't ever want to be the guy who overblows it.
I understand. I've done 20,000 voiceovers. Okay, probably more. But I don't want to talk about any.
Yeah.
So be cautious.
But what you start to realize is we're not all like the listener. You are a completely unique individual on this earth.
That's right.
Just like everybody else. That is what unites us, right? We're not really that different. Like at the end of the day, yes, there are these differences, right? There's a difference between like a pink Toyota and a blue Toyota, but they're both kind of Toyotas at the end of the day. Yeah. And when you've coached this many people, what happens is you start hearing what people aren't saying.
That was my next question.
You start hearing the person talking about, their marriage is falling apart and this and that and the other thing, and you're like, oh man, you're talking about that, but You've never mentioned your kids. Like we've been talking about your family for 2 hours, and we haven't talked about your kid one time. How come you're not talking about what's going on with your kid? And it's funny because people will be like, "Oh, how did you know that?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't. You just didn't say it. I just poked a little bit beyond the veneer." Yeah. We all have these masks that we put up, right? I mean, persona. I mean, the word persona is the Greek word for mask.
Exactly.
It meant mask, right? And so we develop this ego. We pretend to be separate from everything so we can figure out who we are. It's our way. You have to do it, okay? Like every human being has to develop a persona, has to develop an ego. With it, you're not a complete adult. The second that you've developed it, though, now, it becomes a liability because you start to see yourself as this separate thing and everything else is out there. And anytime you play out there versus in here, you're kind of hiding and you're kind of thinking there's these threats and you forget that you also are a part of out there. I mean, just so simple, right? We think of our bodies as separate, right? Like our bodies are completely separate. So even if I'm touching the table, right, I'm not actually touching the table. There's like this resistance between the atoms, right? They're not just going to push together. So I'm not really touching the table, but it's what it feels like. But check this out. A second ago, I took a breath in, and all sorts of particles from the environment became part of me. And then I breathed out. And now all sorts of particles of me are part of the environment. Like when I eat, I'm taking something in. When I use the bathroom, I'm pushing something out. And so these boundaries of like me and the world, yes, they're real, but they're much more gray than we think. And we have to not forget that, like, yes, you're an individual and you're a part of something bigger. Human beings are the only species in the world that can clap in unison. Yeah. Like we can clap. And what's crazy, if you've ever been in a big stadium where that starts to happen, it gets faster. How do 95,000 people know the rhythm? Because we can imagine together. We're the only species on the earth that can imagine.
Shared imagination.
Yeah, I'm speaking words and it's putting pictures in your mouth. Don't think about giraffes. Don't think about monkeys. Don't think about trains, right? Everybody's got a giraffe on a train on a monkey. You know, like everybody in their mind is some version of that. We can imagine together. That's the only way we could clap together. Because to clap at the same time, I have to know when you're going to clap. I can't hear it and then do it, which is what animals do. I have to know when you're going to clap.
That's right.
If you can connect to that, then you can coach because you can feel the truth or the veracity of what someone's saying. The difference between coaching and counseling, for example, right? Because you said, how do you not fall over? Counseling, not all, but most counseling is about, hey, what's your trauma? What's your damage? And where did you come from? So we're looking backwards. We're looking to heal things.
Trying to fix use the past to fix the present.
Sorry. Right. Cool. Very, very, very Freudian.
It can be almost mechanical in some senses.
The traumas of the past create the person in the present, right? Coaching is much more Adlerian. It's much more, hey, where are we now and where do we want to go? I mean, just the word coach. It's a horse-drawn carriage. Right. I mean, that's what it. But I think that's a really good analogy for what a coach is. Like, I'm going to meet you at a point and we're going to go somewhere.
That's right.
Right? And hopefully you get there. Now, in this coach, you're the passenger, you're the driver, and you're the horse.
Exactly. You know,
and I'm just there to kind of show you, hey, I've seen people go down that path, and here's the problem with it. If you want to go there, great, but here's the issue. But yeah, the coaching is about from here forward. You know, if you're walking along and you fall in, like, let's say you fall in a 6-foot pit. So you fall, you're at the bottom of a 6-foot pit. No amount of knowing why you fell in will ever get you out of the pit.
Exactly.
Now, once you're out of the pit, there's a tremendous value. So don't hear me say that there's
happened,
no value. Yeah, right. So once I'm up out of the pit, I definitely want to turn around and say, don't want to do that again. What happened, right? And so there's a total value in counseling, psychology, all of that.
I believe that. Yeah.
But what I like to focus on is like, hey, where are we and where are we going?
You know, when you're talking about all the shared thoughts and everything, you're right on the edge of quantum mechanics in what you're talking there.
Well, it is. The science is starting to back up a lot of the woo-woo. Science is starting to converge with the religion. Surprise, we're finding out it's all one thing. Surprise.
That's exactly right. And including some top-notch both physicists and theologians combine disciplines. And in your the internals of the mind and your coaching, you're really tapping on to an incredible internal source, as I see it.
To me, and this is totally unfounded, and I'm totally too dumb to have this opinion, but I don't care because it's my world.
There you go.
You know, and it's for me. For me, when you think about like the uncertainty principle, like what is it? I really think that my will, like who I am, is what decides. You know, is the cat dead or alive in the box? Well, it's who I am. I'm creating that at every moment. You know, do I have confidence or am I doubting? Because confidence and doubt can't exist in the same moment in the same person. So when I find myself doubting, I'm like, oh, I'm destroying worlds. Like the cat in Schrodinger's box is dead right now. Do I want that? No, I don't think I want that. I'd rather be a creator, right? Because however powerful a creator you are, that's how great a destroyer you also can be. And so I always try to think of like, wait, I'm operating out of doubt. Like I'm tearing down things. How can I shift this to creation? How can I shift this to confidence? What am I confident about, right? Maybe your marriage is falling apart. Cool. Well, what are you confident about? Are you confident that you want it? Are you confident that you don't want it? Get to where you are confident and then build from there. Because if all you do, and this is so, I mean, social media makes this tough, but because so many people they just haunt the news feed and they haunt the social feed to see what they're uncertain about, which will have you destroying your entire life because you'll be operating from doubt all the time. And let's be honest, it's so hard to know what's real anymore.
It is.
It's just so hard to know. So, hey, what are you sure of? What are you confident about? If you build from there and see like, hey, here's what I know and here's my next step, things get a lot more fun. And I don't know that it's right. I don't operate in right and wrong.
Well,
I like to operate in working, not working.
I was going to say it works.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll do. Who cares?
Yeah.
As long as the outcome is there. Gosh, we spent more time than I even expected in our introductory conversation. I would love to keep going. Okay. We may need another podcast if you're up for that sometime, all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's talk about the practicality of how does what crosses someone's mind to think that, wow, I might need Coach Kevin, or I might need a coach. Or, if you've got 50,000 people that you've talked to or are coached, somehow they were motivated to seek a coach.
Yeah, usually there's some kind of big event, and almost always it's negative, right? So my wife just said she's not happy, or my husband's business just went under, and we're almost bankrupt, and I need to get out of this hole. Usually there's a hole that we've fallen into, and there's something to navigate. The other side of that, and a lot of my clients have had a ton of success. Okay, so I think most people think like, you make your first $1 million, that's a great day. But a lot of people make their first $1 million and then immediately fall into a hole of, wait a second, I'm not magically fit. I'm not magically happy. I'm not magically, like I did this thing. If it was $1 million or if it was whatever your big goal was, and then they realize they still don't really like their life. This is what happened to me at 32 is I had checked all the boxes.
Right.
Like I just did it all. Like everything I was supposed to be, I was.
Understood.
And I kind of hated myself. I didn't hate everything about my life, but I just really didn't like who I was. And that didn't compute. I'm like, well, hey, I checked the boxes, And so being the coward I was at the time, I just started to break all of the rules and really do a lot of damage, Later, and as I started my second marriage, I found a coach because I was in a really good place. I had something really great, and I really didn't want to lose it. And I realized, like, hey, I'm not really sure why I blew it up the first time.
Let's make sure we don't do it again.
Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. How does somebody reach you?
So on socials, it's Coach Kevin, pretty much everywhere, more or less.
And we'll put all this, by the way, in the description of our podcast today, too, as well.
Yeah, also it's CoachKevin.com. But, man, I'll tell you, the most important thing is, do you need a coach? It can be extremely helpful, but the answer is really no. You already know what you need to do. You already know what you're doing that sets you back. You already know what the next thing that you need to do is. Just do it. And some of us, and this is me included, I'm just not going to do it unless there's someone else sitting there. Like I could say all these same words into a microphone, right? But because you're sitting here, it gives me a permission and an inspiration to do something different. Yeah. And coaching is kind of the same thing. It's like, you know what you need to do. There's not a terrible coach is a person who comes in and tells you what to do.
I am sure. I mean, that's an interesting thought on that. You sort of are an accountability place then.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, what do you really want, and who are you really? And then let's navigate that, and then I'll let you know. There's so many ways to justify. You would think that of all at this point in time, like the human mind would have developed to be a scientist, right? But the human mind is a lawyer. It just justifies whatever we're feeling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we're great at rationalization, self-rationalization.
And so most people set a goal and then 2 weeks later talk themselves out of it. I'm like, well, what I always really wanted, and so as a coach, I'm going to be like, no. We said we would hit this thing. Like, I don't even call them goals. I call them targets. Why? Because if you miss a target, then you shoot again.
Right.
I got it. With the target, you're going to keep shooting until you hit it, right? And it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to miss.
Right. You'd like to get closer to it on every
shot, though.
Let's
hit the target. Yeah, let's actually hit the target and not just justify why we couldn't.
Kevin Voisin, thank you very, very much for your time today. We'd like to do more. And you could reach Kevin on all the header information that we have on the podcast. This has been the Jim Bratton Podcast with Coach Kevin from, we'll call it Studio 206 at Marmo today. Thank you for listening.
This has been Jim Bratton Podcast. We hope you have enjoyed, been inspired, informed, angered, or otherwise emotionally stimulated. This is your booth announcer, Sierra Sakel.